kind of hard to tell what rule we are working with on a question like this. The answer choices are kind of weird, right? They're different verbs, but then there's also different nouns and stuff getting added in. So it's hard to say, but my guess is this is kind of one of the verb tense rules, specifically the one that I call the to and ing rule. And I don't see a to version, right? There's no to ensure, but we do have ensuring. The reason I call it the to and ing rule, though, is that generally speaking, it involves one or both of those forms of the verb. And when that's what's being tested, most of the time we're thinking about sentence structure, right? What counts as a sentence? Do we have run-ons? All those things. So pay attention to punctuation as you read. That's usually what we're interested in. So I'll read the whole thing. In a rural area along the border between Oklahoma and Texas, amateur astronomers gather each year to observe the night sky at the Okie-Tex Star Party. Like most other parties, Okie-Tex takes place in an area with low light pollution, ensuring dark skies and ideal stargazing conditions. So I kind of paused for a second, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to need A, because I have a sentence here, right? Okie-Tex takes place in an area with low light pollution. That is a sentence that could stand on its own. Now I do have a comma attaching some other extra clause to the beginning, and then I have this other comma, and it's attaching an extra clause to the end. But I've got to be careful. If that extra clause becomes its own sentence, now I would have a run-on. And that's what choice B is doing. It's making a run-on sentence. This will ensure dark skies and ideal stargazing conditions. That's a sentence. The reason is that the word this behaves like a noun, a subject, and then will ensure is now an active verb. And so we have both pieces. It's a sentence. And we can't just join two sentences with a comma. We need something else. We need a semicolon, we need a period, or we need a comma plus a conjunction like the word and. But we don't have that option here. So B is going to be a run-on sentence, and so is D for the same reason. It ensures dark skies and ideal stargazing conditions. Also a sentence. Now C is a little weirder. It's mostly just wrong because it sounds wrong. Ensures would be the kind of verb that we would need if we were trying to make this its own sentence. But without a subject, it doesn't make sense. So there's just really no reason in this case to put it. We have the sentence taken care of. My hope is that you would at least hear that C is wrong. But with B and D, they don't sound wrong, because they could be right if instead of a comma, we had a period there. And this is why you can't just go by sound for the PSAT and SAT. It's not enough. Punctuation doesn't make a sound, right? We could say it's a pause, but why is the pause of a comma different than the pause of a period? It's really not. And so we need to understand how these punctuation marks work to combine and separate different pieces of sentences. Only then can we make sure we don't fall for traps. A might not be the way that you would have written these ideas down, but is the only option here that actually does it in a grammatically correct way. And so we've got no choice. We've got to pick it. But this is really important. Even though it looks like it's about verb tense and just when does this take place, it has nothing to do with that. It's not about past, present, future. It is purely about the structure of the sentence. This is a great example of how we can really have an advantage if we know what rules are on the SAT and get really good at identifying them before we start solving the question.